meeting today for this session is to talk just briefly about the education ePortfolio and give you some context for this particular assignment and set the stage for how you'll use the ePortfolio in the future, and then answer any questions you might have. I think that by the time we get through everything today, you'll see that this is a fairly simple assignment, and it's definitely nothing that you need to really stress too much about right now. We're not creating an entire ePortfolio in this particular class. So I'm going to talk specifically about what you'll need to do for this class. But in general, what we're going to do is we're going to work to develop this web-based system that documents requirements that the state puts in place for all of the institutions of higher learning to use as we move candidates through the curriculum towards teaching licensure. So the purpose of this ePortfolio is to help document your path through the education courses that most of you are going to start taking more and more of in the next couple years, and find artifacts from those classes that show that you indeed have met the requirements that the Ohio Department of Education says that every teacher candidate needs to meet. It also shows that as instructors, Mrs. Bigham, myself, and the other education profs, that we provide you feedback, formative assessment feedback on those different assignments and your performance, so that you know where you are in relation to meeting the goals of teaching licensure. What the ePortfolio really then does is it integrates technology, which is a focus of this class in particular, your academic coursework then that you'll be doing in all of your EDU courses, and then your field experience. So this particular assignment will begin right now in EDU 218, but it will follow you through and you'll finish it when you get to your clinical, which I don't know, Linda, you might know the number of that one. It's like 404 or 408, right. I don't know. It's a 400 level.
Right. Your senior spring semester will be your 470 or your 478 class. And in fact, that's what we're going to be doing in the next couple weeks, is reviewing these portfolios. So as Dr. Berwick said, it's something that you're going to continue adding to until that senior spring semester. And then you'll have an exit interview, and part of that's going to be, faculty looking at these ePortfolios.
So we think because all ed majors, no matter what your area of licensure is going to be, whether you're early childhood or your AYA, everyone takes this course. So we get you set up in this course because it's the logical point to do so. We've been talking a lot about web-based technologies, and this just seems to be a good fit. Additionally, as you're going through these different courses, as you have the different professors, they're going to say to you at certain times, hey, this is a project or a paper or something that should go in your ePortfolio. We're going to refer to them just very loosely as artifacts. So through your different courses, you're going to collect these artifacts like papers, projects, and other works, and you'll put them into your ePortfolio. For that reason, I would suggest that if you're not already, that you're saving all the work that you do for other people's classes. So whether it's a folder that you have on the desktop of your computer or in My Documents, if it's a Google Drive, I'd recommend getting all those things somewhere in the cloud, so that if your computer dies or suddenly crashes, that you don't lose that work. And then when the time comes to turn this in, you will have those backed up. So if you have a Dropbox account, you can do that. If you have a Google Drive, you can put them all there. Some place where you keep those key artifacts that you're going to create, because whether the teacher tells you at the time that you're taking the class, this is something that should go into your ePortfolio, or they don't, you need to be able to have access to that, I'll call it legacy coursework, archival work that you've done sophomore year, junior year, into your senior year. And you're going to add them into this ePortfolio.
Right.
As far as,
I'm sorry. I was just going to say an example would be most of you in 150W, EDU 150W, you would have done philosophy of education. And so that's an example of an artifact that you would maybe put in this ePortfolio. Okay.
Exactly. So you're going to sometimes be guided by the prof that says, "Hey, this is going to go in." Sometimes you're just going to probably have to make the determination on your own. It will vary as you go through. But for this particular course and for this assignment this week, all you need to do is simply create a Google site using your Google account. So we've all got those. We've been using them all year long. You've been creating your Google Classroom. It makes a logical sense to use Google Sites to help you organize this. And I'm going to show you why I think that is in just a second. And you'll see some other examples that I'll share with you from people that are getting ready to graduate this spring that might not be on Google Sites. And before we really got hot and heavy into the Google certification and everything, there are other free web builder sites. So we don't necessarily say you have to use Google Sites, but I'm going to strongly encourage it. You got anything to add there, Linda?
Yes, I agree. I think moving forward, because of all the changes in some of the other platforms, and because we are moving towards so much more into Google Spaces, it just makes sense to put your documents in Google. You have access to them, and then you can just add them to your Google site. So I also am going to strongly encourage everyone to use Google Sites.
Yeah, so we'll set up this, I'll call it the skeleton or the framework this week for this class. You'll give us the link to your published site, even though there won't be any content on it. Populating the site is not the requirement. It's setting it up, making sure you know how to create that Google site, and then giving us the link to your site. That way we kind of keep a record of it. And if you forget or you lose track, we have all of that stuff. But as you move forward through your courses, you'll create the artifacts and the narratives that go along with them. But for this week, we're just setting it up. I put a slide on here with all of these examples, but these are the same examples that are linked on the assignment document that is in D2L right now already, just so you have an idea. Since everyone's in different licensure areas, I tried to include some exemplars from each of those areas. But just to take a quick look at one, here's an English language arts example. I believe this is set up with Google Sites, and we can tell that by the URL that we have up here. But she's got a nice quote and some stuff about her menus and items that she's been involved with down here, or units that she's taught, and then a navigation across the top. So you might see some things that look familiar. Meet the teacher section where she tells more about herself, how to communicate with her. This is the philosophy that Mrs. Bingham was talking about. So everyone's written this philosophy of education in the 150 course. And you can see, in this case, she's just, I think, copied and pasted that. One thing that might have happened too is that her philosophy of education has changed somewhat since she wrote it her freshman year. So she might have gone into that original philosophy and taken a bulk of it, but tweaked it a little bit to reflect who she is as she's ending her career as a student and is ready to enter into the world of teaching.
Right.
That's one of the items that you probably already have right now that could go on your ePortfolio if you choose. The resume is here, and then references as well. You can see that she has letters linked here for people that have given her letters of reference. So feel free to take some time before going through these examples. I told you they're on the education portfolio assignment, which is written out. This assignment basically just covers what I've said right now, and then gives you some step-by-step directions about how you create your Google site if you need those. So you might not need to follow these to the T. You might be able to do this on your own, but they're listed. And then towards the bottom, you can see that these ePortfolio examples are listed as well. Take a look at them, just get some ideas and start thinking about what you might want to include. Questions so far, or anything you want to add in there?
Yeah, and I was going to say too, if anybody has any extra time, I know everybody's home right now, but like your About Me page, you could go ahead, look at some of those examples And, you know, play around with this. If you want to put some stuff into some of those pages, you know, go ahead and do that now. Just like Dr. Burke said, by the time you're a senior, you may tweak them a little bit, but it would still be nice if you have time and you want to do some of this, you know, go ahead and put some things into your sites page.
Yeah, and I want to kind of just show you loosely how that might work or how you might roll this out next. I've got everything set up in my drive and I've done a little work to get organized to share with you, but it'd be similar to what you've done. So somewhere in my drive, and I have all my different files and folders and everything in here, I've created a folder called ePortfolio Media. And I've started to put some documents in there because I know I want them to go on my ePortfolio. And when I open that up, you can see I have something called my Vita. In higher ed, we call it a Vita. Most other professions would refer to it as a resume. We're fancy in ed. We like to be special. So we call it a Vita, and we list every single thing that we've ever done. Where when you're applying in other professions, they really just want you to have a short one-page resume. So it's a little different with what I have, but I think you get the gist. I've got my resume here. I've got a document that contains my references. I've got my philosophy of teaching, and then just some other media that I'm going to use in here. But what you're going to want to do is find a place in your drive, maybe create a new folder over here that's just called ePortfolio, depending on how you organize. I organize all my stuff by classes. So I've got the classes I teach. I've got one down here where I keep some important documents. So however works for you, you're going to want to figure out where am I going to keep all this stuff. But when you're ready to create your ePortfolio, it's as simple as going into the folder that you want it to be in, creating new. And although Google Sites doesn't show up as one of the main three options, if you go to more, it is an option that's down below. So you'll click on Google Sites and it's going to ask, do you want to create it? I have mine in a shared folder right now, so you guys will be able to see it. It asks me to verify, do I want to share it with all you guys? And I'm fine with you looking at my site. But once you open that up, you'll have the kind of the main Google Sites builder. I got to resize a little bit. At the beginning, it's going to be ask you if you want to take a little tour. You're welcome to do this, but I'm kind of going to give you the basics here. But you have what's essentially a Google Doc or a Google slideshow here. You've got a thing here, a header where you can give things a title. You've got different options over on the right here where you can insert items, text, image, embed things. You see that it has some templates just like Google Slides. So depending on what you want to put on your page, you can toggle between these and change the layout of your page really simply. You can create additional pages by using the Pages tab and then the plus key or the plus button here. So I have my home, which is going to be my main page, and this would be where you'd want to identify yourself. I'm going to use my full name. I don't know why I can't type right now, but you might start by adding your name. You can resize this. So if I want to try to get everything on the one line, I can just stretch out my text box just like using Google Docs. If I want to change the look of this page, I don't like these gray marks here. It's as simple as clicking on themes and selecting a new theme. Maybe I like the impression theme a little bit better, and you can see when I click on that theme, it's going to change the look and feel. I prefer diplomat. I'm not really sure, but I think you get the gist. You can change the colors. You can personalize the colors that you use down here. You can change the font style. So there is some variation into what you can do. I could also do something like changing the header type of my pages. So you can see I have a really wide header right here. It seems pretty large to me. If I wanted to reduce that, I could change it down to title only and just put my name on there. I could have the banner. The large banner makes it even bigger. I could have just a folder, a cover, a picture. It's really wide open for you, but you can change that and you can do it on a per page basis. If you want to have a custom image, you can do that too. You just have to have the image somewhere saved on your computer. And in this case, I've got one of those images already in my drive. So if I click on select, I can go into my Google Drive and navigate into the folder where I've kind of got everything set up and hiding. Remember I showed you earlier I had that ePortfolio media page. And when we get here, it shows me the different images I have. If I want to use a specific header, I can click on that and then it adjusts that and brings that in. So now I have a custom header, for example, that I might want to use. It's a little nicer than just the plain colors that Google provides. And I think if you go through the different examples that I've shared with you, you'll see a lot of customization. The early childhood people love to use crayons and paints and colored pencils as those headers, whereas the AYA people, literature, might have something related to Shakespeare, or science people have you know, test tubes and microscopes. So you can fully customize it, and you want to make it reflective of you, who you are as a teacher and who you are as a person. And that's one way that you can do that. Once you've kind of got your main page set up, then that's when you want to start adding information here. Since this is my home page, I want to maybe have a quick little blurb that talks, what is this site and why do I have it? So I'm going to insert a text box, and you can see when I use the text box button over here, then I get a text box down below my header, and I can choose what kind of text would I like, title, heading, subheading, or small. I can do all of the bold, but I'm just gonna, for the sake of time, say welcome to my ePortfolio for right now. And obviously it's editing just like you do in Docs. If I want to make ePortfolio bold, I can highlight and click the bold, and we can do something as simple as that. So adding elements in is pretty easy. Now let's say I add another text box down below, and I have some type of message here, whatever it might be. You can see I have two text boxes, and over on the left, I can do some things to each of these different sections. I can either trash it if I want to get rid of it. I can duplicate it to make another exact same section like that, or I could go in and change the background. So if I want to kind of divide up my page a little bit and make it a little more easy on the eye, I guess, I can go back and choose some style options. There's not a ton that you can do in this particular area, but it does allow some customization, and you might decide to draw attention to certain parts of a page by doing something like stylizing the background of each section. I'll stop just for a second because I tend to talk and ramble a little bit. We good so far? All right, so I've got my main page and I've got it set up. I still haven't given my site a name. You definitely want to always make sure you give your site a name. So I'm going to just name mine my own name again, and maybe ePortfolio. One thing that will do when you name your site, which you need to do to be able to save and locate it, it's going to put it up here as well. So this will show up on your front page and as you navigate through your site once you publish it, so that everyone knows where they're at. You could also have the option of removing the text and adding on a logo. So I don't really have a logo, but for lack of a better example, I could pick you know, an image that I have saved somewhere, and since I was in my drive, hopefully it'll go right back to the page that I was in. Let's get down to week 13. Let's say, for example, I want to make my logo my avatar. Not that you necessarily would, but it's going to upload that, and then you can see it inserted into my page. So it's just a little small visual that kind of would be in the top corner. This would be more often seen in brands. So if you were Kraft macaroni and cheese, you'd put the little Kraft macaroni and cheese logo up here, or Pepsi logo or whatever. But I could use the picture of myself if I wanted to. Outside of the home page, you might consider adding a couple pages in just to get started. The About Me page would be one of the logical places to start. So if I use the Add Page over here and click the button, it's going to ask me, what do I want to name my page? Instead of About Me, since I have a resume already, I'm going to make a resume page. So I'll name my page and click done, see what it did. It put my header on here and it kept it, but it didn't resize it because I had stretched it out on the main page. So you might have to go through and do some customization once you get things in. I also might not want to keep that banner in there either, so I might just go title only on this particular page. But underneath resume, what would go here? Well, it would be all of the background about me, my experience, etc. And I actually happen to have all of that together in a Word doc or a Google doc that I have stored. The thing about Google Sites that I love so much when we get to something like this is if you have an item that's saved as a Google Doc already somewhere in your drive, it becomes so simple to insert it in here, and it allows the end user to look at it and it looks like the doc is embedded right in your page. So I'm going to add my resume in by going into my drive, navigating again back to where I have all of my media stored. And finding that particular Vita document that I shared with you earlier. It happens to be right here. And when I click on this and then select insert, what it does is it creates a box within the boundaries of the page, and it puts my Google Doc right in there. If I want people to be able to see more of my Google Doc on this page, I can just click and drag down and resize this particular box. All right, and more of my Google Doc will show. So I've seen this in some cases where the entire page, this blue box here, has been stretched so they can see, so users can see the entire Google Doc. If you ever are wondering, I wonder what it looks like to people that are looking at my site on the publish side, because we're in the edit mode, you can use this button up top with the little computer screens to preview your site, and it will open that up and give you a more full view of what your web page looks like. So here's my Vita, and you can see, although I didn't resize it to fit my entire page in here, what it does is it puts an automatic scroll bar in here. So people that come to my site, if they want to see my entire document, which happens to be 19 pages, I told you in higher ed, we love talking about ourselves. So I got 19 pages worth of professional things I've done in my life, including grants that I wrote but never got funded. So that's what we do in higher ed. But your documents can fit in here. Just like this. It could be lesson plans, it could be assessments, it could be any type of document that you have saved that you want to showcase. And it's really simple just to kind of click and insert. Now I'm still in preview mode, and I know that because I can see what it looks like on my screen, but if I wanted to resize it and see what it looked like on a phone, for example, it will show up. This is what someone using an iPhone or a cell phone to view my site will see. Obviously, it's a much smaller view, but you can kind of see what it looks like in the end user's view. Another thing to notice is since I have 2 pages now, Google Sites is automatically putting navigation in the top, so I can toggle back and forth between the different pages on my ePortfolio. So now I'm back to my home page and I have a resume page. If I add a new page, that will show up to the right or to the left, depending on what order I have my pages. When I'm ready to exit this preview, I just click X and I go back into editing mode. And I can continue to work on my resume page, or I could go in and add another page just like I did before. Perhaps I need to get my references on there. So I'm going to make a references page and tell it done. Again, I'm going to have to resize because the words I'm selecting to use are too long to fit in that header. I'm going to go in and then insert the references that I just had. And I think that we'll try this one. I'm just guessing. It happened to be the right one. So yay. So now I can add on the people that are my professional references. If you're thinking about hiring me for a job, these would be the people that you need to contact and how to contact those. So adding pages is simple. It's also easy then to reorder these. So if I want to move the page, so references is first, I can just click on it and hold down and drag and drop it up above. So you can make pages in any order and then determine how you want them to display on your site afterwards, and you can just move them around by dragging and dropping. At any time, if I decide I wanted to change my theme, I could go ahead and just change the theme again. And it will update across the whole site. Now you see, since I have 3 pages, it's got all 3 of my pages listed up here on the right. So when you start building your ePortfolio using Google Sites, the embedding of Google Docs becomes super simple. Embedding images and embedding Drive documents, whether it is a Google Doc, a Google slideshow, a Google Sheet, it all goes in just very seamlessly. And it's very little work. In the past, you had to know like HTML coding, and you had to put your document somewhere and have it saved, and then know a certain amount of code and go into the back end of a website and mess with the code. Well, we don't have to do that any longer. Google Sites makes it much simpler. Now we just do what you see is what you get. You use your WYSIWYG editor to add things, to change and customize, and you get a really nice professional looking site with very minimal web development skills. Anyone that can use a Google Doc can build a Google site. It's something that come to me for just a second and now I lost it, but that is essentially the Google site setup. The last thing that you need to do for the purposes of this assignment is, once you have your skeleton or your template set up with a page or 2 on your ePortfolio, you have to publish that site. Once you publish it, you can take it offline and unpublish it so it isn't visible. But once you publish, it makes it public on the web. Now, does that mean everyone's going to go to your ePortfolio site? Probably not, unless they are really into searching for you on a Google search. Publishing will make it visible for Mrs. Bigham and myself to view your site, to see that you've created your ePortfolio and to give you credit for this particular assignment. But it doesn't mean that people are going to, come to your site and be looking at it. It just makes it viewable on the web. So that's the last step. You'll publish it. This is a important part. The first time that you publish, it's going to ask you, what do you want the web address to be? Now, with Google Sites, the beginning part of your web address is always going to be sites.google.com. But after that, this is what you're specifying here. So my recommendation is to make this either the name of your site or just your name. Maybe I don't want it to be ePortfolio, but I want it to just be my name. So I can change that down here. I could also just make it Jeremy Bruick if I don't want it to be doctor. But I would say make this some form of your name so we can identify, or the people viewing your site can identify who it is, whose site they're going to. You can also use custom domain names. So if you paid to have your own domain, jeremybruick.com, for example, I could integrate it into this process. But for the purposes of the class, you don't need to do that. There's no reason for you to be buying domain names and paying the ongoing costs of that. Use the free Google site and then just customize it with your name. You can also then have some view options, just like you do with Google Docs. And if you don't want to show up on public search engines, then you would just click this box before you publish, and your site won't even show up in the Google search engine. So once you have all of your publish settings the way that you'd like, you simply click publish. It'll give it a second and push all of those changes down to the web, and it will also then allow you to go into the this particular menu, the copy publish site link, and click on that. And then I can copy that link. And where's this going to go? It's going to go into the self-assessment portal. So go into that spreadsheet once you've published your site, copy that link and paste it in the self-assessment portal on the proper tab by your name. That way the instructors can go in and check really quick and then make sure that you get credit. So this is not active until you publish your site for the first time. One important thing to note, if you come back in here and you add something after you publish, so let's say I make another page, this time I'm going to make it about my philosophy. If I make this new page and I put my document in, what you'll see is that if we preview the site, or we go to the live site, excuse me, that this philosophy page will not be visible until we publish again. So anytime you make changes to your site, if you want to make sure that they get pushed down for the general public or someone else to be able to see, you need to make sure you click publish. If you don't click publish, it's all right, because Google Sites is going to save the changes that you made. And next time you open up your Google site, those changes will be there. It just won't be visible to the public until you publish your site again. And then it's going to tell you what are the changes. See, I have philosophy and I don't have it currently, but when I click publish, it's going to make those changes. And now my philosophy page would be visible to whoever's viewing my ePortfolio. So the publish portion is important because that's how you get the link to turn in for this assignment. And then later on in your academic career at Mount, as you add documents on here and you want to update your site, you'll need to make sure that you're publishing it before you share those changes with future instructors, whoever might be teaching your clinical class 2 years or 3 years from now would probably be the most important person to make sure you update that for. That in a nutshell is the ins and outs of the ePortfolio. I would say watch some of the guidance that we have on Desire to Learn. We've got some tutorial videos if you need help with Google Sites, but you need to just get your portfolio set up, make sure you have a home page, add an About Me. If you have something else that fits in there, like your philosophy, put that on there, and then submit that information for us by the end of the week so that we can review and make sure that we give credit. I know I'm missing something, so Linda will catch that, I'm sure.
Well, the only thing I was going to say, and this was something a principal had told me, she was in ed tech probably 7 years ago. And when she did her ePortfolio, she put a resume in and she included her address and her cell number. Fast forward 7 years, she becomes a principal and someone calls her on her cell phone. And she thought, how did they get my cell number? Here she had put it in her resume. So be careful what you put in the resume, because once you publish it, so years later you could forget that you had something in there. And so just a caution about that when you put your resume in, or, because in these couple of years you're going to be doing that. Yeah.
Right.
Have a resume already created or you started one, just go ahead and put it up there now.
Yeah.
Oh, the embed code also. So a lot of things we've been working on, and you always see that embed code. So this is where you can, grab a code from something you're working on and paste it in here. And that document will keep uploading or upgrading, as time goes on. So, that's another great thing to add to this is that embed code.
Yeah, and a good example of that might be like your Ed puzzle. So if you create an Ed puzzle and it's an artifact that shows your understanding of something and you want to use it as a documentation, you could get the embed code from that Ed puzzle and paste it in here, and then it will bring that Ed puzzle right into your ePortfolio and display it in a way that looks really neat and professional with minimal work from you to make that happen.
Right. Yeah. So does anybody have questions?
Pretty straightforward, I think, hopefully. Try to make it as
take
easy.
a look at these examples. They're really good examples here.
Yeah, I guess what I was going to just say about the examples is as you move through your courses, you'll be introduced to the Ohio standards for the teaching profession if you haven't been introduced to them before. And what you'll see is through your preclinical and your clinical experience, you'll be looking for artifacts that are aligned with those different standards. And we know that there's 7 standards, and you're going to want to have an example for each one. So this particular example has each of the standards listed. And when we click on that, we can go through here and a little explanation of what that is. But you can see then here, her Google certification. So she finished all of those modules that we've been working on this semester, and she's got her certificate here. it's obviously saved on her Google Drive somewhere and as a picture or as a document, and she's embedded it. And we can scroll and see the whole thing, but you can see that she's completed the Google certification. Here's an example. She's embedded a website for PBIS in the classroom. And this is an entire website that's actually embedded into her own website. She's pulled that in. We could go back to those standards and click through. So I would say one thing you might consider doing, although it seems kind of far out there, keep track of this document here, this UMU ePortfolio overview and directions, and save it, make a copy of it, put it in your drive, because when you get there 2.5 years from now, it might be useful to be able to look at these links and go back and see what other people have on there while you're trying to create your own ePortfolio to finish clinical. And I know that,
great idea.
you know, like I teach preclinical and I always try to have examples of my work, but I don't know that everyone that teaches preclinical does that. Mrs. Reich teaches the clinical, and I know that she does a good job of providing them too, but you might want to keep it just in case. That way you have some examples. So I try to include a variety of them: language, music, AYA in middle school. It's just good to kind of take a look through everyone else's. It gives you some ideas about what you want to put in your ePortfolio. And then to me, ultimately, what I would do with this website and the address that goes with it is that would be included on my resume. And as I'm mailing my resume or uploading it into the online systems and applying for jobs, that links there for a principal or a curriculum director or a HR director who's doing the hiring to look at your work, because they get a lot of resumes. Not very many people go in with a 3-ring binder any longer in the interview process, but you can always say, I'll give you the link to my portfolio, and maybe they'll look at it, but maybe they won't. But what you want is a professional representation of yourself as a teacher, and we're setting up the foundation for that in this particular class this week.
Right.
All right.
Yeah. Well, if anybody has questions, let us know. Like Dr. Berg said, it's a pretty straightforward, but while you have time right now in your home, go ahead and put some pages in and, become familiar with this. You could also go to the Ohio Standards for the Teaching Profession and load those 7 standards. Of course, they might change by the time you're done, but I kind of doubt it. But anyways, look at and save that page like Dr. Berg said, because it'll be great resources in 2 years when you need to do your final portfolios.
Definitely.
Okay.
All right. Well, if there's no questions, then hey, thanks for taking the time to be with us. Hopefully you're enjoying your hike, whoever was hiking, and the rest of you guys. Yeah, there you go. The rest of you enjoy the end of your day. If you have questions, email either of us. We're here to help, and we'll post this as a follow-up video in D2L2. So if you need to go back, you can do that.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good week. Be safe. Oh, tonight at 7. Tonight
you know what? I'm going to change it, Linda.
Okay.
I didn't get to it. I got sidetracked this morning with some other stuff, so I'm not going to stream tonight.
Oh.
I'm going to stream at 7 on Wednesday. Since we did this, yeah, I'm going to do 7 at Wednesday.
Okay.
I got behind. I thought I would be able to get that planned, and there's too much planning in the stream. So you guys just get this today.
All right. Well, this is great.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks.